Hi guys, welcome to Reps. This is a mental health podcast for athletes who are done playing, whether you are playing high school, college, pro. This is for any and everyone. I'm Julia.
And I'm Charley. And we just wanted to say first off, thank you for coming to listen to our new podcast. We're very excited to talk about mental health and the life after an athlete.
Charley, how you feeling today?
I'm good. I am a bit nervous to start this podcast. I'm already sweating, and everyone knows I have a sweating issue, so I'm a bit nervous about that. How about you?
Same. I'm a little nervous. If you're watching this, you can see that my cheeks are really red, but that's just when I feel anxious and nervous, they just get really red. So
we're just so excited about this podcast, Reps, Repurposing Yourself After Sports, because it's something that has hit us hard in the past year and half year, and it's something that we believe should be talked about more after sports, and we're going to start to get into that and why we started the podcast and everything like that. But first, Julia, tell us about your journey like in sports and how we know each other, and just let everyone know.
The whole shebang. So I started playing sports when I was 4. I started with developmental basketball. Then I went right into softball and played that most of my life. Then I started volleyball when I was in 4th grade. I want to say maybe I was in 8th grade, a freshman in high school, when I started to do club volleyball. Or maybe by high school, I was playing club volleyball all year round. And on top of that, I was still playing softball during the summer. So then I got recruited and I played at a university called Point Park University in Pittsburgh. It's NAIA Division I, but like NCAA Division II. I played there for 4 years, and then because of COVID, I took a year off and I played overseas. Me and Charley got our masters together at Newcastle University, and that's where we met. This is where this beautiful story begins.
So as you can see, she's been playing sports her whole life. I've been playing sports my whole life. I have been playing soccer. I've played basketball. I've ran track. I've done gymnastics. I've done sports my entire life, every day, since I could remember.
You were active as hell.
I am very active. I've been playing competitive soccer since I think I was about 3, and I played for the same club until I went to college, which I went to the University of Akron, which is Division I, where I played women's soccer, and then after that, I went to play in England and get my master's, which is where I met Julia, in which I just played for the uni, which is something we'll explain in a little bit of how sports are different there. And then that's how we met each other, just from sports and being in the same course. And now we're about to start a podcast together.
So welcome.
Yes, welcome.
So how this came about was, Charley, I called you, you might have called me, but it was the day you got back from playing in Israel.
Yes, sorry. I forgot to mention I did play professionally in Israel for a little bit until I recently just tore my ACL for the 2nd time. So I'm going through it right now, but I hope I can help other people through the process and stuff like that with this podcast. But sorry to interrupt, Julia. Go on.
Oh, you're fine. So the day that Charley got back to the States, maybe the next day, me and Charley have always stayed in contact since we finished grad school, but I was on my way home and she called me and she was like, Julie, I'm just having like a really bad day. Like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know if I should go play again. And I was like, Charley, I've been talking about wanting to start a mental health podcast relating to athletes and their journey and transition when they're done playing from sports to the real world. I mean, me and Charley have done a lot of research into this and we've really found no podcasts, any sort of supports other than going to an actual therapist on just the mental struggles that you face whenever you're done playing the sport.
Yeah, I remember calling you that day and I was just at a really low point. I'm pretty sure I was bawling all day. Maybe to myself, maybe my family was around. I can't quite remember. But I know I was so sad because I was like, deep down I was like, oh my gosh, my whole life has been playing sports every single day. Maybe one day off a week, or 2 when I was in England. But, I mean, it just hit me like, oh my gosh, my life is sports. I'm known as the soccer player. Like, everyone knows me as the girl that plays soccer, the girl that went to England to play, the girl that went to Israel to play. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm back home. I'm going to be depressed. And this was a month ago, so since that, I have become what I believe is depressed about not being able to play and not knowing what I'm going to do next, as well as anxious most of the time about, oh my gosh, like, do I even work out anymore? Like, it was just been a very difficult time, and we know other athletes and other people are just struggling with this, but especially after athletics. As she was saying, there's not much other research or, like, help for people after athletics, but we could see now in the NCAA, they've taken a much, they've made it a point to make sure you talk about mental health while you're in sports and while you're competing, because you can be very depressed and anxious while you're playing, but even after, it could affect you just as much, if not even more, when you're done playing.
And honestly, Charley, little did you know when we had that phone call that, I don't know if you knew this or not, but like all the months that you were away in Israel, I was going through the same thing back home at my parents' house, where I was just spending every day lying around, not knowing what the heck to do with my life, not knowing, I had no purpose. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just laying around all summer because I felt lost. I lost all motivation. Like, I just hit such a low point mentally. But you're right. The NCAA has done a tremendous job of getting athletes who are in season that help of, playing under pressure and stuff, which is awesome. But as soon as you've played your last game for universities, there's the door.
Final whistle. There's nothing.
Yeah. They're like,
I've received nothing to ask how I'm doing, which is not great.
No, it's just like, thank you, good luck. And you're like, well, what? Yeah. What am I supposed to do now?
We'll have a senior night for you. We'll appreciate what you've done for us. But when you're done, you're done. Figure out what you're going to do now. And which is fine. Like, you have to grow up at some point and figure out what you want to do on your own. But at the same time, it's okay to be struggling and be depressed or anxious and not be able to find the same competitiveness you used to have and go through all the struggles, because your whole life has been your sport, basically. And if not your whole life, at least a fourth of your life so far has been sports.
And, whenever you graduate, it's, people always ask you, like, oh, what are you up to now? And instead of like, oh, how are you doing? Because people are they just want to know what's next. Like, you only have a purpose if you're doing something, or like, your life's going well only if you, what's next. If there's something that's like attached to your name other than like, hey, I'm doing this. Like, feelings just get pushed to the side.
And then also, along with the sports, a lot of people, I don't know for you, Julie, but at least for me, they're like, are you going to keep playing soccer? And I was like, well, why wouldn't I? It's all I am. Not all I am, but you know what I'm saying. It's what I identify myself as, is a soccer player. So I was like, of course I'm going to keep playing soccer. And thankfully I was like thankfully I was able to go play in England, and you were too, but that kind of just gave us some more time to figure out what we want to do. But at the same time, it was just like, oh my gosh, we're still playing every day. We're still working out every day to compete and play against other people and be with our teammates and go get ready for games and get dressed in the locker room. And then it's just like, oh, you're done now. Now what are you going to do? And you're like, well, I want to keep playing soccer, or I want to keep running track. It's just, and there's not many options for you to do it after, and it takes a mental toll, and a physical toll, and those are both related, which is something we want to talk about as well.
When we were, the UK, I agree. The UK honestly just bought me time. Like, I had no idea what I wanted to do after my undergrad. They were like, you can continue playing. And that's all I've known how to do. Like, go to school and play sports that's been my life forever. So it's like, yeah, absolutely. I will happily buy myself more time. But then after that,
every time we've been given a break so far in our lives, whether it's spring break, winter break, summer break, it's like, oh, what are you doing this summer break? Conditioning, working out for my sport, not like going to internships or going to find other jobs. It's like you prioritize your sport. But also, if you're not prioritizing your sport, or you didn't, that's also fine. But you're just might be struggling in a different way, in which we want to help as well.
We do. We have so many goals for this podcast. The big thing is that we just want to start the conversation of mental health. Like we've been saying, we haven't seen any resources other than you going to talk to an actual therapist. There's no sort of community when you're done playing sports, but we want this to be a community for everyone. they can come. This is a safe space. We can all talk about our mental struggles and start the conversation of mental health when you're done with sports.
Yeah. Especially because, like we've been saying, every day you're doing it, and now all of a sudden you're not with your teammates anymore, where you used to sit in your room or the locker room for 2 hours, 3 hours just talking, and now it's like, okay, you're going home, you're not playing anymore, you're not surrounded by the same people anymore, you're not with your coaches, you're not with this support staff or this support staff, you're almost by yourself, which is in most sports very strange because your whole entire life you're with your team your whole time. I mean, I can't remember, I used to do gymnastics, but other than that, every other sport has been with a team and you have your teammates, but so you're with them every day, and then after you're like, wow, I'm all alone. Like, I could call my friends, but it's not like I could go run with them if they live 2 hours away or halfway around the world or something like that. So we just have a lot of goals for this podcast, as Julia was saying. Like, we want to help other athletes start the conversation, not necessarily about mental health, but your mental health after playing sports, in which you could repurpose yourself.
And we want to focus, like, how we can, retrain our mental health in different aspects of our life. We're going to talk about, finding an identity, because your sport is not the only person. That's not your only characteristic trait. You are so much more. I'm so much more than just a volleyball player. Charley, you're so much more than just a soccer player. We want to talk about, our relationship with food, because we've only ever known how to eat food to train. There's not like, you're not going to have a game tonight, Charley. So it's like, what do you eat?
Yeah, or like even your sleeping is going to be different, because you're not, at least I don't think you'll be able to get as tired as you are if I go and run a 90-minute game as I will go do a 45-minute gym session. Like, you're not going to be able to get that same sort of sweat on, let's say. So we would definitely, as Julia said, want to talk about like what you're eating, how you could retrain your mind to show that you're more than just the player. Like, there's so much more in everyone that's listening than just the player or just the sport you've played your entire time. Like, as you were just saying, we both have had mental struggles, and we've been struggling with this transition, and I'm right in the middle of transition right now, deciding whether I should even keep playing with my second torn ACL or if it's time to move on past Charley, the soccer player, which
and that is that's a huge mental hurdle that you're going through.
Yeah, I mean, even just thinking about not playing soccer anymore makes me want to cry.
It's also so anxiety, because it's who you are, Charley, through and through. Yeah. And that's, if you don't play again, it's not to say that you'll never be a soccer player again, but, what's next in your life? And, it's so scary. That's also the other thing. It is so scary. There's no blueprints. There's nobody, there's no support system around you. Like, the universities always had, boatloads of different resources that you can reach out to if you need anything. But now that you're done, what resources are there for you?
Yeah,
None.
Exactly. Literally. But hopefully Julie and I could be a good resource for you. And we just really want to help anyone out there that's struggling or isn't struggling and just needs something to listen to, or was an ex-athlete or anything in that sort of manner. Either in someone who just did high school sports, like, you're still playing for, let's say, 17 years, 15 years every single day. It's hard to just let it go. And I hope that Julie and I could both shed like a new light on this topic and help other people out, because even though we're also both athletes, we both have a very different approach and a different type of way of life with sports, I would say. Like,
very different.
Like, which I think is a very good thing, because that's why we're both co-hosting this podcast, because we both have a very different approach to even explaining these topics. Like, I am an exercise freak, so not practicing every day for me is like insane. Like, I can't even go a day without going to the gym at this point. And Julia's like perspective might be different, such as
I'm consider myself like a lazy athlete. Okay, like, if I gotta go to workouts, I will be there. I'll bust my booty at workouts, but if I don't have to do that, then I'm gonna enjoy my time off. And we're just two opposite spectrums of athletes. So we offer a wide range of viewpoints.
Yeah, and knowledge. And I also want to point out that this podcast, like I said, it's for all athletes, including men and women, because men go through the struggle just as much as women are. So I don't want anyone to think that this is just a woman's podcast. Like, men, I'm pretty sure I'd have to look up, might have a more difficult time from what I believe I have been researching and reading with finished sports, because we're going to talk about this later, but the masculinity can play an effect along with the sport being your whole personality. As long as with females, it's, oh, you just play a sport. It can't be your personality. So that's something we're going to touch on. And then some other podcast episodes that Julia's mentioned before is stuff we'll all be reaching out about and stuff.
Yay. So anyone listening, if you have, thoughts, ideas, if you want to share your stories and your struggles with us, please message us. Follow us. We are on Facebook, Instagram, at REPSpodcast. Our personal accounts are also linked if you would rather message us individually. Please share your stories, like and follow us. We really appreciate it, and we're really happy that you guys could be here today with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for the support. Please share with anyone you know that's struggling after athletics, or if you're struggling, even your parents. Like, everyone's parents have probably played sport at some time, but
oh my gosh,
everyone struggles, even 2 years out of sports all the way to 40 years out of sports. This is for all ages, all genders, and everything. Just share, give us a review. Let us know how you like the podcast. This is our first ever time recording, so we're not really sure how we sound, if it's good, if you enjoy it, but let us know.
Just be kind. That's all I ask.
Yes. And then, as she said, follow us, and we'll also be posting a video on YouTube of us, actually recording the podcast, because we know some people like to visually see things more than just listen to it, and we want to make sure this is accessible for all and everything. And then also, I just want to mention that we will be posting every Tuesday, so after you might have your Monday morning struggles, you can wake up Tuesday and listen to the Reps podcast.
Woo-hoo.